listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
All right, what is going on? Hope you're doing great. And as always, thanks for checking out my show, Straight to Video. If you're a regular listener, thanks for the continued support. Or if this is your first listen, I hope you enjoy it and maybe consider diving back into all the other chats available on our website, stvpod.com, or just smash that like, subscribe, or follow button wherever you listen to your podcast, because that would be awesome. So today's chat was a blast for me and one I've wanted to bring you for some time. For quite a few months now, this show has been shown support from the wonderful rock and roll coffee company Dead Skull Coffee. Now, I just didn't want to approach some random company to come and be part of this show just to grab a sponsor. I want to work with people I like and be really behind what they do. So when my pal Richie Hudson said he was launching his own coffee company, then I knew right away it would be perfect for this podcast. Richie and I go back to the mid-2000s together, smack bang in the MySpace era when our band's Teenage Cassette Company and Kitty Hudson were bombing up and down the M1 and all over the UK to play any venue we could and trying to figure out the weird and wonderful rock scene of the time. There were a lot of great bands around then, but Kitty Hudson was certainly one of my favourites with great songs and such a fun vibe about them. Richie would invite me to fill in for the band at a one-off show at the end of 2008, and to this day it remains one of the most fun gigs I've done ever. There's a lot more to Richie's story though, which is why I wanted to get him on the show. During our chat we go right back to the start and Richie's introductions to rock and roll, from hitchhiking all over the country to see the Quireboys in the late 80s, to working and becoming part of the London rock scene before joining the band Waterbratz just as the 90s rolled in. From there, he would land a record deal with the band Glitterbug and head to China to play venues the size that many of us still dream of playing, before forming Kitty Hudson and landing a slot at the Donington Download Festival. Outside of all this though, Richie is a real rock and roll entrepreneur and has built up the Time Bomb brand in his town of Croydon, from an alternative clothing shop to what is now a hugely successful piercing and tattoo business. Just to add to all of this, he runs the Croydon Rocks Music Festival and this year started Dead Skull Coffee. Oh, and he still plays some kick-ass rock and roll too with his band The Fiascos, whilst managing to keep the coolest and most chilled head of pretty much anyone I know. If you want to find out all about Richie's projects, then of course most of you know about Dead Skull Coffee already, and that you can grab 15% off your order at deadskullcoffee.co.uk by simply adding the promo code STV on checkout. But also, if you want to get some world-class tattoo work, then timebomb-tattoo.com is your place to check out. And if it's just the music you want to hear, then hit up The Fiascos on Facebook. Alright, let's get into this, as I'm sure you're going to enjoy this talk because there's a lot of stuff to cover and Richie has a lot to say. So please sit back and enjoy my straight to video chat with my mate Richie Hudson. I'm chuffed we got to do this and get you on this show. Are you okay to dive back into the memory banks? Are they still working well enough to go back to the 80s?
Probably not, man. I mean, I was thinking, I thought last night, I was thinking, fuck, I've got to do some preparation for this. And I saw, the message and you're like, oh, we'll go through, Waterbratz and Glitterbug and yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, well, Okay, yeah, I'll spend the day today, just like do an hour and just do some little kind of bullet points of, funny shit. And then I was so damn busy, like coffee went crazy today. The store was insane. So yeah, I've had zero preparation. So I'm all good. Let's do it, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's dive in. Because you're like long associated with Croydon in South London, but where are you from originally?
Cambridge. Well, I grew up in Scotland. Yeah, my first 7 years was in Scotland.
No way.
Yeah. So right up north in Elgin, Morayshire. Yeah, grew up there, and then I'm a forces brat. So my old man moved to Cambridgeshire, did schooling there, and then I thought when I'd done my A levels, I thought I'll take a year out and just move down to London, and then never kind of went back to. Well, I did like college of sound engineering and stuff like that, and web design and whatever, but never went back to it full time, and kind of really glad that I didn't, because it worked out all right in the end.
So what was Scotland like up until 7? You must have a few memories.
Yeah, I do. I think most of the memories come from old photographs, because I guess you kind of get your first memories when you're like 3 or 4, and so yeah, there was a few years of, I remember being up like on the coast, very very north of Scotland. I don't remember it being crazy cold, because as they say in Sweden, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. As a kid, that was just the norm for me. Moved down to England, I would just wear a t-shirt even in the whole of the winter. Moved down to London, would wear a little t-shirt and a little box leather jacket, and never be cold at all. Had a great childhood growing up. Folks were cool and split up and stuff, but no dramas at all. It was all good, man. Brought up by my mum and my sister, so I think they must have given me some eyeliner tips.
What's the age difference between you and your sister?
She's older by a year and a half, so she was kind of the bully sister, and I was just like hanging on to her coattails, just like, whatever you say, sis, it's all good.
You're still pretty close?
Yeah, we're really close, actually. Yeah, my mum and my sister, I'm still like super, super close with. My old man died a couple of years ago, so it's just, I was kind of brought up with them, so I was kind of brought up with the girls, and then when I went to school, all of my mates were girls as well. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm gay, and then I'm like, no, I really just enjoy hanging out with chicks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to try and trace back this entrepreneurial side of you, if I can.
Yeah, cool, man.
Because
okay.
you're such a laid-back dude, but then when I step back and look at everything you do, you have so much going on. Have you always been like that since you were young, like developing new ideas and new projects, but still managing to keep a cool head?
I've always been a bit of a blagger, I think.
Right, okay.
See what I could either get away with or, see what will work. And the thing is, a lot of people say, oh, everything you touch not turns to gold, but, does okay. And I'm like, yeah, but you only see the 2 things out of the 20 that are actually working. I've got 18 other things that I've done that, monkey tennis, rubbish idea.
What?
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I'd always come up with not scams, but just like ideas of going, oh, how can I make my life easier, make not necessarily the world better. I'm not like a goddamn guru kind of thing like that, but, just wanting to make things easier as well. So yeah, I think that I kind of started it off probably as a kid.
Did you start to sell stuff in the playground?
Chocolate bars and stuff. Yeah, it was things like that. And I guess my mum probably looked at me and she was like, what are you doing? He's either going to be in prison or a millionaire, and I'm neither. So I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. So, and then I think it really kind of took off was when I was on the dole for years and years when I first moved down to London. I was just doing the rock and roll. So I was doing music. I was working for all the clubs up in the West End. I worked for like 8 clubs in the West End, just doing things like cloakroom or flyering or being on the door, skinny little white dude on the door trying to shove out all of these big hairy metalers. But I just kind of, I guess, talk them through. Yeah, I'd problem solve with chatting rather than violence. Once I'd done that, and then I'm like, well, I suppose I better get a real job. So I had a few little jobs kicking around, did a lot of computer stuff, did some building work, and then, went on tour kind of a few places, and then decided, you know what, it was myself and my ex-partner, we decided to open up a little rock and roll store, which was the start of Time Bomb.
That was the first major venture kind of thing which you went into.
Yeah, that was that started off as like kind of punk rock and roll clothes, and then the whole new metal scene It started 18 years ago, so it's a fair while ago. And so the whole new metal scene came in, and so we had all the baggy trousers with the chains on them. And we didn't know what we were doing. We'd been up in Glasgow for a festival and did a bit of shopping, and there was a cool little rock and roll store up in Glasgow. And the customer service was so good. They'd made us buy tons of stuff. They'd upselled us and they'd cross-sold us. And we were in a bar the same evening, and we were like, man, Croydon really needs something like that. That would be amazing. Why don't we do it? And we're hammered at this point. And then we go to bed, wake up in the morning. Did we think about opening up a shop in Croydon? What a ridiculous idea. Should we still do it? And so we thought, why not? Let's give it 6 months. Let's give it a chance. So, we both kind of maxed out our credit cards, which was like $5,000 each. So to start a business, 10 grand, including getting all the stock and the rent and everything, was like crazy, crazy cheap. And after 6 months, we'd grown it into quite a beast. So we were like, okay.
What was it like? All the kids or like the young teenagers like, holy shit, this is what we've been waiting for? Or was it a cross section of people?
We thought we knew our demographic when we did our market research. And we thought there were a few rock bars in town. There were a few kind of alternative, gothy places, punky places. We were like, we've got this down. This is easy. And we opened, nobody came. And we were like, oh boy, okay. We might have messed this up. And then from having that store, the alternative scene kind of grew a lot from that tiny, tiny little place. And then the new metal scene grew, and the emo scene grew massively around the time of Green Day, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance. My God, I remember I could basically write My Chemical Romance on a bit of paper and sell it, over the counter. It was bonkers. And they just kept us afloat. Those guys just really, really, broke it for us. And, went through a few kind of tough times, and scenes came and passed. I remember one time I was putting up these new trousers with all the chains and the spikes on the wall. Came back in the next morning to open up the store, and all of the walls had just caved in on top of all these trousers because they were so damn heavy.
Shit.
And man, okay, cool. Let's just get some quick racks from Argos or whatever. So you just kind of had to do what you did, to carry on trading or carry on going. And then when fashion kind of started not fashion, just retail started to take a real massive hit. And there were so many other companies, massive corporation companies going under. We were still kind of head above water. We're doing okay, which I'm super, super thankful for. But then retail died more and more and more. So we've got to kind of diversify. So we thought, what do we know and what's kind of under the alternative umbrella? So we thought body piercing, that's going to fit in with the demographic of the guys coming into the store. And then once we'd had piercing for a couple of years, one of our body piercers, he was a tattooist, and he said, guys, you're leaving money on the table, and I didn't want to do a tattoo studio because I didn't know that much about it. So the day before we opened up the tattoo studio, I said to the guy, like, if you want to do it, we'll give you, like, here's 10 grand, fit out the studio, but I don't know what I'm doing, but you do. So, and he wanted to build his own tattoo studio over in Australia, which was where he was from. So I said, you can use this as your trial run. If it works, super, super cool. And then you have to go back to Australia in a couple of years. So all the best. And this guy, Dougie, he pretty much turned it around for us. And I can't thank him enough. He's, super, super cool guy. Lives over in Dublin now. I've gone over to see him. Smashing chap. But so the tattoos and the piercing really, really kind of took over. And T-shirt printing as well, to a certain extent. That's pretty banging. But then the retail totally died. So about 3.5 years ago now, I had to move. So I'd taken over the store at this point, 100% from my ex-partner. So he had to move out of a place that we had and move into a new place. And I had 8 weeks to find a new place, do all the contracts. I found this place and it was just a shell. It was like Beirut. There was no floor. There was no ceiling. The walls were just plain brick. It was pretty brutal. So we had 8 weeks to turn that around. So I called on a few buddies of mine, and we all hands on deck for 8 weeks, managed to open up on the day that we were supposed to, managed to get the tattoo and piercing license the morning that we were opening, which, by the skin of my teeth, man, which is pretty much my life, Rob. It's everything's pretty much by the seat of my pants or the skin of my teeth.
Brilliant.
And yeah, that was so that was 3 years ago, and then since having that place, the business has gone well, and I'm a happy bunny. So yeah, it's all good, man.
All good, all good. And all the time, this has got a rock and roll thing around it. So music's always been your thing. Was you a music fan long before picking up the guitar? Who were some of your favourite bands and musicians?
I guess when I was growing up, I was kind of into the poppier side, because I guess I was into, Duran Duran and Go West and things, not the coolest bands in the world. But then when I hit 13 and my sister gave me 3 albums, and she gave me Hannah Rock's, I think it was Two Steps from the Move or Dead by Christmas. I think it was Two Steps from the Move, Kiss Alive 2, and the Ramones.
That's a good trilogy right there, mate.
Super cool, yeah. And she didn't even like them. She was more into the Smiths and the Cure, and she was more of a alternative goth chick. But I got this Hanoi album and I turned it over and I just saw like these hot chicks in makeup, and then I realized they were guys, and I'm like, okay, I've found my brand. And I kind of explored stuff from there. So from there, I kind of got into the glammy scene. So your Motley Crues, your kind of glammy punky stuff. So I was really into bands like the Sea Hags and Junkyard.
So when would this be then? This is like 89-ish, 88, 89, would it be? Or just before then?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just before then, I suppose. Yeah, I remember I wasn't in London, so it would have been before 89. But I'd go around to my buddy's house and, they'd have the latest Salty Dog album or The Moles or something. And I'd bring over like, Sea Hags or whatever. But yeah, music's always been like kind of massive to me. Anything that kind of creates a big reaction, whether it's movies or music, that's why I love my horror movies, my 80s movies, my comedy movies, anything that provokes a reaction, whether it's joy or fear or edge of your seat, thrilling, terror, whatever. Absolutely love that. And that's exactly the same with music. And so I kind of got into a bunch of thrash stuff after my kind of glam phase. Well, I suppose the glam phase has never gone. I'm sure everyone says that's just a phase they're going through. I haven't worn eyeliner for like the last 30 years or so. It's ridiculous, and I'm still trying to get away with being 25 rather than 75.
What was the first gig you managed to see once you was getting into all the rock stuff?
The first proper one, I think Status Quo played my school, but I don't really count that.
They played your school?
Yeah, this was up in Cambridgeshire, and I went to a bit of a posh school. Yeah, I think they came and played Kimbolton School, probably when I was like 15. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And then 15, 16, I started to go to proper, in quote marks. So my first, again, embarrassing, but still cool, I think. It was Dio supported by Warlock at Hammersmith.
That's cool. That's not embarrassing.
Kinda, yeah, kinda. I mean, looking back on it over the years and going through the years, I'm like, oh, God, that's pretty cheesy. But now looking back on it, I'm like, hell yeah. Ronnie James Dio, he was absolutely cool. Doro was going to be my future wife, right? So, yeah, did those. And then at 16, started, again, in quote marks, working for the Quireboys fan club. And so I really got into like the Quireboys and the Dogs to More.
How did that all come about?
I was just a massive fan. I bought their first single, Mayfair. That was with Ginger from the Wild Hearts on guitar. I must have seen them on one of those late night rock programs like Noisy Mothers or can't remember what they're called. And yeah, really got into Quireboys and the Dogs to More as well. And all the buddies that I was hanging out with, there was like about 4 or 5 of us. We would all wear the pinstripe jackets with a carnation in the lapel and loads of scarves. We were kind of like Happy Shopper Aerosmith walking through town. So I guess I just really dug them. And then I, probably going back to the kind of entrepreneurial stuff that I've done, I just sent the fan club guys a letter and said, I do a bit of artwork. Can I do some kind of cartoony stuff for you guys? And so I ended up doing a Christmas card for the Quireboys. But I used to go and see all their gigs, and I used to hitchhike all over the UK, go and see every show that the Quireboys, the Dogs. I remember Love Hate, the first time they came over, I would hitch over with them and then just sleep in car parks, because didn't have anywhere else to go, didn't have any money. So I'd make sure I'd get up to the gig at about 4:30, 5 o'clock when they were kind of loading in for sound check. And I'd be like, oh, give us one of those guitars. I'll help you out. they're like, who's this kid in a floppy hat and a pinstripe jacket? And then I'd just hang out and go to the off license and buy the, I don't know, cheapest, weakest beer I could possibly find, Skoll or something, get a 4-pack and go, oh, guys, I bought you some beers. And they were like, oh, you can stick around, you're all right. That was when I was about 15, 16, I guess.
Was you playing guitar at this point?
No, I started playing guitar when I was about 16. So I was still living up in Cambridgeshire at this point. Me and my buddies, the wannabe Quireboys, we figured, well, and it's a terrible reason to get into music. Nobody should get into music because of this reason. But we thought we find it really hard to get girlfriends. So we figured, who's going to play bass? Who's going to play guitar? Who's going to play the drums? And who's going to be the singer? So we figured it out. And then we're like, right, okay, cool, we're a band. And we couldn't play a note. So I went and bought a satellite Les Paul from some thrift shop, some charity shop. My buddy bought an Axe guitar from the back of Kerrang magazine, or an Axe bass rather. We were absolutely shocking, but we had the greatest time doing it,
What was that band called?
We were called Sioux City, Sioux City, as in the Indians, which was a lesson that I learned quite early on. Always have a band name that you don't have to tell people how to spell. People would be like, oh, Sioux City, is that S-U-E? God, no, it's like the Indians, come on. Obviously, later got into other bands and bands that you've known and hung out with. Waterbratz was one of the next ones that I got into, but it was Waterbratz with a Z. So I didn't learn my lesson, did I? It was like Waterbratz with a Z. That would be the name of the band, It wasn't just Waterbratz. Waterbratz with a Z and an exclamation mark.
They formed in 89, but you wasn't part of the original lineup.
I think I'd just moved down to London. I'd hitchhiked up to Bedford to go and see, I can't remember who was headlining. It might have been the Silver Hearts, who became the Last Great Dreamers, and Waterbratz was supporting them. And I remember meeting Hilda and Ringo, the singer and the drummer of Waterbratz, at the bar, and I had on like a white suit jacket with the sleeves rolled up.
Like Don Johnson.
Well, I had the hair of Don Johnson as well. I thought I was looking like, Rod Stewart, Footloose and Fancy Free kind of thing. But no, I just looked like a shit version of Miami Vice. Ringo would always tell me back in the day, he would always say, we nearly didn't invite you to join the band because of that white jacket. I wouldn't have blamed him, to be honest.
Oh, man. So how did you get the gig? Did the guitarist leave?
Their guitarist left or got kicked out, and I think their bass player did as well. And then, their bass player got replaced with Mark Bomber Randon, who plays in every band under the sun. I came along to audition. I auditioned it was like a college campus, Maryland, in Stratford, East London. I think we rehearsed like 2 of their songs and 3 covers. I think one of them was probably Smoking in the Boys' Room or something by Motley, because Waterbratz were very much still kind of glammy, like a kind of wannabe Guns N' Roses, but a very much a British version, Hilda, the singer, being from Barnsley, very much a kind of northern version of Guns N' Roses. Did the audition, I think it went okay. And then, oh, crikey. Then we were going on tour a couple of weeks later. We were doing like 3 shows, Birmingham, Oxford, Manchester, I think. And we were driving down the M40 and we crashed the van, ripped it open like a Coke can, went over the barriers. It was a crappy transit, no seats in there, just the 3 in the front. Everyone else was in the back of the van with all the amps. So it was going around like a washing machine. We all sustained kind of, luckily, not major injuries, but heavy minor injuries. That was like the first show. And I brought my one of my best mates, Merlin, along, who was a roadie. And they said to us afterwards, while we're in Oxford Hospital, we understand if you don't want to be in the band. And I'm like, well, it can't go down from here, can it? It was definitely the only way is up. So I'm like, well, let's give it another shot,
Was this after the gig?
No, this was before the show. So we had to phone up the venues and say, we can't come with Crash the Band. And I don't know whether they believed us, There were some bands that phone up and go, oh, I've got a bit of a cold. Then we sent photos of us with neck braces on and, scars to die for. It's horrific. So, that was my first foray into kind of proper rock and roll, I suppose.
That must have been a good time the music scene changed a few years after, but you had a good couple of years where that stuff was super, super popular.
We did, and we had great times, playing the Marquee, playing the Astoria. And we'd always have like a really, really good crowd. But again, I think that was probably from a lot of us would go out blagging and a lot of us would go out flyering. And, we'd go, go for the fat birds because they'll definitely want to come along and pull us. And, we weren't the most cute guys in the world anyway. And then it's like, oh, if we get 100 fat birds in there, it's like getting 200 skinny birds. Terrible, absolutely awful. But that was kind of our thinking at the time. Stick a strobe light on, it's going to be awesome.
Dude.
Yeah, I know, terrible.
What was the band after Waterbratz? Was it Glitterbug after Waterbratz, or was there some stuff in between?
It was Glitterbug, yeah, because I think the scene had died a bit of a death when grunge had come in, and I think the last glammy kind of tune was Cherry Pie or something. And then Teen Spirit came along. There was still like some of us kind of holding the torch for the glam thing. I kind of had got into more of a sort of Britpop vibe at that time anyway. We all kind of decided to go our own ways. I joined Glitterbug, who were very kind of suede-y, like suede the auteurs, that sort of vibe. Ringo came with me and did drums with those guys for a while, and that was cracking. We got signed to a label pretty much straight away, and that was from busking. Myself and the singer, we used to busk on the tubes. So I would have a plan of, I sound like a right corporate evil bastard here, but I had a plan that all the record companies were on the district line between Richmond and Earl's Court, and then Earl's Court to Wimbledon, back to Earl's Court. So we would busk on those lines. And then we used to get a lot of business cards from people in the music business, and ended up with a card from a guy called Richard Evans, who is a radio plugger. He said, oh, what are you up to? Have you got any gigs? And we were playing the Waterbratz Theatre the night after. And Leighton, he used to wear a sarong on stage. So we said, well, come to the Waterbratz. And it's like, we're on at 10 o'clock, we're headlining. He's like, that's too late for me. And we said, that's okay, we've got some guy from Virgin coming down. And he was actually just a mate of ours. He wasn't there to sign us. And so this guy, Richard Evans, came down, and he's like, came into the dressing room straight after the show. And he said, don't sign anything until I've spoken to you tomorrow. And then we spoke to him the next day, signed with him as a manager. Within 3 weeks, we were showcasing for Sony, Island, like the big four. Yeah, we were like, okay, wow, this is it. This is the big time. We were offered massive amounts for our publishing, and we thought, no, we're going to keep it in-house. It was a foolish thing to do because at the time, best deal you can get is the deal that you've got, or the deal that's on the table in general. We ended up signing to Idel, which was Hollywood Records and Play It Again Sam Records.
Was this around like 99-ish?
Yes, it must have been, yeah. So, yeah, I've jumped a bit. And we signed with those, and then we did a load of the like Top of the Pops and CD UK and Richard and Judy and all the like TV shows.
How did you find all that? Was that exciting for you?
I absolutely loved it. It was wonderful. Going on tour and doing like month-long tours or month-and-a-half-long tours. Absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Loved being in the studio. Kind of had a rule that I would never have a shave while I was in the studio. Still can't grow a beard even to this day, Rob. But that was fantastic. I kind of thought, oh man, this is it. This is the big thing. You get a limo, not a limo, but a people carrier to come and pick you up from your house down in Croydon on this little cul-de-sac that I lived in. And so I'd walk out at like 5:30 in the morning in shades and a fur coat into this people carrier. Kind of caught myself at points just going, what are you doing? You're not a rock star. Your neighbours haven't even heard your records.
Who were kind of your contemporaries around that time, around 99, 2000? Who were the other bands floating around? Because that's just before like Busted and the Dum Dums and all that kind of thing.
The record company tried to market us as take that could actually play their own instruments. So it was just before Busted and just before the Dum Dums as well. We played with the Dum Dums a couple of times, I think. I kind of loved that scene, but I didn't really want to be Take That. They wanted to dress me up in a jumper and be the new Mark Owen. And I'm like, man, that's not really me. I want to wear like a skinny fit T-shirt and have my hair backcombed like nobody's business. So yeah, it was just before them. And then I think we kind of missed the boat a bit. We were in the same circuit as bands like Coldplay and Bellatrix and Crashland and a lot of the kind of Camden scene. Yeah, and I was kind of into that scene, but happy to say I never bought a Coldplay album.
No. But didn't you guys go to China?
We did. We got signed to SAV, which was Shanghai Audio Visual. They were like the biggest label over in China. They had Madonna and oh god, I wouldn't even know where to start. But Sting or whoever the biggest people were in the world at the time. And so they signed us. Can't even remember if we'd lost the deal with Edel at that point. I think we might have done because we just ended up doing a couple of singles with Edel Records. And then, SAV took us over to China, and that was incredible. We played like, I think 10, 12 shows with Glitterbug over there, and they were massive. They were good 40, 50,000 capacity venues.
Mate.
Yeah, I know, proper Spinal Tap kind of thing nowadays. Yeah, incredible. And the crowds were amazing, very much more subdued than, say, the Japanese, for example, or European crowds even. But it was a weird time to go over there because we were one of the first unsigned bands, if not the first unsigned band, because we weren't signed in the UK. It was just like, a label from China had gone, you're coming over here. And we're like, okay, that's going to be cool. So we did an album with them, which was just a mishmash of the singles and the B-sides and some demos and stuff. Yeah, did China with that. That was great, great fun and an amazing, amazing time. Did, Shanghai mostly, Beijing, a couple of other places. Then we came back, tried to release a single by ourselves, and that failed miserably. And there was a guy called James Tomlinson. I don't know if you know him, from 5 Miles High. Yeah, he helped us with this single. And we were like, I really, really hope it works. And he was like, I really, really hope it works. And unfortunately, it didn't, it just didn't fly. So then Glitterbug split up. And I got a call from SAV a year after saying, hey, we want to get you guys back over to China. And me being cheeky, I said, well, Glitterbug aren't together anymore. And it wasn't a bad split, but it was just a bit, we weren't ever going to be in a band together again. And so I said, well, we're not together, but I've got this new band, Richie Hudson, which are pretty much exactly the same as Glitterbug, which was totally untrue. And they're like, okay, we'll get you guys over. So we did 27 shows in 12 days.
Mate.
We were doing like matinee shows. We did morning show. Yeah, first shows were at 10. Second shows were at 3.
How long had you been together at that point?
Not too long, actually. Actually, I was in Richie Hudson while I was in Glitterbug, so I was kind of balancing two bands.
Wasn't Al like tour managing Glitterbug or something, your bass player?
Yeah, he was tour managing / roadieing. And then we got on like House on Fire. So we're like, we should be in a band together. So, we went over to China. Those 27 shows in 12 days was crazy, insane. The crowds were a lot smaller, but they were still like, 1,000 people a crowd. So I don't know, maybe our public are just getting a bit more selective.
But how cool is that? You've not been in a band that long, you just straight back to China.
Oh, it was absolute bonkers, buddy. Really, really bonkers.
Who was in that original lineup then? You've got Al on bass. Didn't you have like a drummer from Daisy Chainsaw, or have I totally found some incorrect information on that?
No, that's kind of true. We had Vince from Daisy Chainsaw. He was our drummer. And we had a guy called Mike, who was an American guy that ran a couple of clubs up in Camden. And we thought, you're cool. You're a nice dude. You play guitar. You've got your own studio. So we're like, come join the band. That 4-piece lasted for like 6 months or so, and we recorded some stuff. And then Vince went on to drum for the Medieval Babes and various other people. Mike went on to do more businessy stuff. And then myself and Al, we got Louisa, who was a cool kind of Dave Grohl, heavy-hitting, badass drummer. So she came over to China with us. And it was so we were just a 3-piece over there. It's cracking fun.
Excellent. And how much of your own songwriting had you been able to record up to this point? Had you been able to record stuff with Waterbratz and Glitterbug, or was Kitty Hudson your first chance to like, this is what I do?
I joined Waterbratz, and I suppose the set was like 11 to 15 songs, something like that. Then I started writing with Hilda. We were quite quick. My songs, Rob. They're not the craziest, most bizarre time signature changes. They're just straight ahead, 3 chords and rock and roll, So we were pumping out songs for days, and then just like taking them to the rest of the guys and in rehearsal, and then we'd all put our stamp on it. Same thing with Glitterbug, really. Yeah, we'd have like a select kind of 5 killer tracks that had been done before myself and any of the other guys joined. But then, myself and Leighton, because we used to busk together as well, we would often write while we were out busking. we had this crazy idea of going up to the north of Scotland from where I was brought up and just hire a little cottage, just myself, Leighton, the singer, and the bass player, Tim. And so we hired out this little cottage, no telly, just a log fire right by the cliffs. Then we wrote a whole album there, in a week. So quite a lot of prolific songwriting stuff going on. When Kitty Hudson kind of started, I was more into my Social Distortion, more like the Ramones, the Backyard Babies, I guess, had just kind of seen the light of day at that sort of time. So I was into that sort of stuff. So I kind of changed my writing style, I suppose, to be a bit more dirty rock and roll. But again, still 3 chords, whack a 4th in there in the middle 8 just to surprise everyone.
Brilliant. And so Kitty Hudson goes to China, but didn't you also get a call up to be at Download in 2006, like a proper last minute thing?
We did, we won a MySpace competition. Thousands of bands went in for it, and we'd made it to like the final 6. And it was right down to the wire. But luckily, because I had Time Bomb at the time, I was having 300 kids a day coming in, 300 rock kids a day. So I'd printed out all these flyers for them. And I said, go home, vote for us to play Download. And so all of them, well, not all of them, but probably a good 20%.
Because that's all they were doing anyway. They're on MySpace and anyway.
That's it. Yeah. So we were probably getting an extra, 100, 200 votes every couple of days on that. It was great. And then I got the call from the guy saying, oh, you've won the Download competition. And we're like, oh, shit. Okay. So, drove up there on the Friday. And I think on the same stage, it was Ginger and the Sonic Circus, Backyard Babies. But then the big guns were like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Tool. So being on the same bill, even though it's a festival thing, that was cool as hell for me.
How did the set go?
Oh, it was bonkers. I came out and I just thought, what am I going to do? And so I just went up to the mic and I'm like, Donington, how the fuck are ya? And the tent was packed and everyone just went, rah! And I looked over at Al because we were nervous as hell, even though we'd played like big shows before. And it was only in like a 5,000-6,000 capacity tent, it wasn't like the big stage. And I looked over at Al and I kind of nodded at him. He nodded back and it's like, it's going to go all right. And then we just rocked it out, half an hour set. We were done in 15 minutes, or it felt like 5 minutes, cracking time. And then we just, hit the crowd and basically flogged our wares, cracking fun. But then we didn't stay for the Saturday or the Sunday because 3 of us had to, like the driver, the roadie, myself, we all had to get back to work.
Damn it.
It was nuts that we couldn't stay for the whole thing. But Friday, day and night, that was absolutely incredible.
Had you been to Donington before, like the Monsters of Rock?
Oh, mate, I used to go, God, I think it was when it was Monsters of Rock. So it was when it was like a one-day fest. You could take in plastic buckets of booze. We used to have a great time. I went there, a few times with Waterbratz, actually, just as punters. And it was like one of these days, I want to be up on that stage, thinking it's never going to happen. But then as the years went by, you play the Walthamstow Royal Standard, then you play the Marquee, then you play the Astoria, then you play the Town and Country Club or the Forum, whatever. And then it's like, well, I wonder when it's going to stop. But I was kind of done after Download. I was like, I don't think I can get any bigger than Download, apart from headlining it or whatever. And then there's a potential of playing Hyde Park on the main stage, and unfortunately that didn't come off, but I absolutely didn't mind. I'm more than happy to have my kind of main sort of rock and roll venue as Download Festival. That's cool enough for me.
To be able to say those words, Donington, how the fuck are you?
Yeah. Oh, ridiculous.
Kitty Hudson had such a great run, but would eventually morph into the Fiascos. Was that just a natural progression? Had you and Robin known each other for like forever?
Oh, forever, man. We were like brothers from other mothers, Al and I had fell out after like several years. We were like best mates for 12, 13 years. And then we fell out over a silly girl thing, as it happens to a lot of people, and it shouldn't, but, it did. Because Robin was playing with Al as well. So it was Kitty at that point was myself, Keith from the Dead Identities and Wonk Unit, Robin from Rachel Stamp and Faith No More and Bruce Dickinson and everybody else, and Al from another couple of bands. When he sort of had to step aside, Robin and Keith were like, let's get another bass player. Keith had just met this guy in hospital, Ben, the bass player of Spiz Energy, and Ben was wearing a Wild Hearts t-shirt. Keith was wearing a Ramones t-shirt. They've both got their hands bandaged up. I think Ben had done his thumb in with a chisel. Keith had like smashed the glass on his hand, and they were sitting opposite each other in the corridor of the hospital. Looked across and they were like, "Oh, nice t-shirt. Yeah, nice t-shirt. What do you do? Oh, I play bass. Oh, I play guitar. We're looking for a bass player." And then it was just like, boom. Ben came in a couple of days later to time bomb the store. I'm there behind the t-shirt counter going, "Hey, what can I get you? What can I do for you?" He sees a Kitty Hudson poster behind me and he's like, "Oh, Kitty Hudson, I know them. They're amazing." And I'm there going, "Okay, cool." And then I introduced myself. I said, "Oh, I'm the singer." He's like, "Oh my God, I know Keith." And then the whole hospital story got told. Then it turned out that we just, all four of us, three of us already, Keith, myself and Robin, were like best mates anyway. Yeah, I'd known Robin from doing the old circuits, the toilet circuits around the UK in our kind of smaller bands, so like Waterbratz, and he was in bands like Ragdolls, and then later on Rachel Stamp and Glitterbug were kind of doing the same circuit as well.
Can't get away from each other.
I know, man. We used to leave each other messages in the dressing rooms. I'd be there at a Glitterbug show and it'd be Rachel Stamp playing the next night. So I'd be like, "Robin, you bastard, love you, man, Richie," whatever. And then he'd do exactly the same at various other venues. Yeah, after a while, we thought we may as well just be in the same band together. We've got the same nose. Everyone thinks we're brothers anyway. So yeah, that happened. And the Fiascos is just like four best mates that happen to play the right instruments.
Kind of like a proper full circle thing. You've all known each other
sure.
Most of you have known each other for so long, and eventually it all comes together.
Yeah, absolutely loved it, man.
When I spoke to Robin on this show, he was talking about your tour with the band Junkyard, and I think you basically told them you were going to be the support band in a matter of words.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, what happened with Junkyard was because they were one of my favourite bands from back in the day, and they were one of Robin's favourite bands from back in the day, because they were always dirty punk rock, AC/DC, badass, southern, just cool as hell. So I was eating in this little restaurant in Croydon. This lady from Texas comes out and she's like, "Oh, you look like you like rock and roll." And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm a musician, blah, 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 run a tattoo studio. And she said, "Oh, my brother's in a band." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, go on." And she's like, "Have you ever heard of a band called Junkyard?" And I'm there just kind of not shaking, but
like the Junkyard.
Yeah, and I'm there going, "What, blues, Hollywood, sixes, sevens, and nines?" And she's like, "What, you know them?" And I'm like, "They're one of my favourite bands. They're absolutely amazing." And she's like, "Oh well, they're going to come over in a few months and play a bunch of shows." And I said, "Okay, cool. 1, can I get your brother's details? 2, can I get the agent's details? And 3, can I get the manager's details?" kind of thing. And so, yeah, just similar to the Quireboys, instead of sending a letter, sending an email out to all of them saying, and I got Courtney, bless her, she really helped out as well, who's the sister of David Roach, the singer of Junkyard. I gave her the CDs of the Fiascos and said, "Send them over to him, or send the MP3s over." He really enjoyed it. Pat, the drummer, really enjoyed it. All the guys loved what we were doing because it was a similar kind of balls out rock and roll thing to them. And they needed a support band for the UK. And they're like, "Why don't we get our new mates, the Fiascos, to do it?" Obviously, the new mates, the Fiascos, were going, "Yes, please. That'd be incredible. Thanks." That was a bonkers, really, really good fun. Yeah, well, we're still in touch, every week or month on social media, etc. Robin's in the new video, actually.
Yes, I saw it. That's great.
Yeah, really cool fun.
I guess finally Dead Skull Coffee comes along and is officially launched in March 2021 with your friend Mark. How do the two of you know each other, and how did that idea come to life?
Well, Mark came to me towards the beginning of the year, and he had this idea of putting together a rock and roll coffee company. And he had the branding, he had the whole kind of idea of it, but he needed someone that could build websites. He needed someone that could do e-commerce. He needed someone that could maybe put a bit of cash in or whatever, but it wasn't really about that. We were all like 50-50 kind of partners. I'd known Mark for several years. He's the stage manager of the London Palladium, but he used to put on gigs, and he put on Kitty Hudson a few times down in South London and towards Brighton as well. And we just got on like a house on fire, and we were both DJing rock and roll stuff at the same time. When he said, "Do you want to come on board?" I was just like, "Hell yeah, I'd love to, man. That would be really, really cool." And just see how we could take it. And we weren't expecting it, because it's just us two. We weren't expecting it to go as kind of viral and as big as it has been. It's been a wild ride, actually. Yeah, a lot of things happened since the launch. Like launching, I kind of wanted to do the subscription thing because I was kind of brought up with a bunch of internet marketing stuff as well. That really works well. And then Mark approached Thunder, the band. I know you've had Danny on the show before, haven't you?
He came on like wearing his Dead Skull coffee shirt. I was like, hey, hang on, wait a minute.
That's awesome. And then so Mark just messaged them and just said, hey, can we have a signed CD for a giveaway competition? They came back and said, do you want to do a coffee with us? And we're like, my God, we would absolutely love to. You know, one of the biggest UK rock bands, or classic rock bands, I guess, that you can get. And, you know, I think their next show is Wembley Arena and they've sold it out. So it's crazy. So having that on board, and the guys from Thunder are just super, super cool, friendly ace guys, you know. But I've got to say, bless you though, Rob. You were the first person that came to the company. It's just two blokes, and said, you know what? I think this would really fit in with the podcast. And so, yeah, having, you know, Dead Skull working with STV is just, you know, amazing. And you're really helping us get the word out there. Hopefully we're pushing your stuff as well. But yeah, it's been
it's great.
It's been a bit bonkers. We've got a few things in the pipeline with it. We've just released a coffee stout, which was a collaboration with the Kronks Brewery, so a local Croydon brewery. They've just used our coffee in their stout, and apparently that's selling just off the shelves.
Do you get involved in the whole tasting side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we kind of decided to do it, we're like, right, well, we better find some coffee, or we better find some brewers or roasters. So we hit up a bunch of roasters we wanted to keep it local. And we wanted to keep it small business friendly as well. So we found a few, went for a few tastings, and we're like, yeah, pretty good, not bad. Then we went to one which was about 20 minutes outside of Croydon. I was hungover to hell that day. So probably any coffee would have tasted amazing.
Give me something to wake me up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up, going to this roastery and trying like 4 or 5 different blends. And it's a family run business. There's only like 4 of them in there. And so, you know, keeping it real, man, you know.
And you're keeping them busy, I would imagine now.
Oh, absolutely. They thought we were going to be some tin pot operation that wanted to open a hipster bar and just sell 5 cups of coffee a day. But we're through the roof. We're roasting every 2 or 3 days now. It's pretty great. And they're really happy. They run off their feet. I don't think they were expecting it. We're run off our feet. And it's all run from downstairs in the tattoo studio as well, because I've got 1,000 square foot kind of basement area. So it's kind of nice and dry and dark. So the perfect place to actually pack up. And so the family business does the roasting. We get the beans and the ground and the pods in, and then send it out to our lovely, lovely customers.
All this stuff juggling. I mean, we haven't even mentioned like Croydon Rocks and all this kind of thing. You've got everything going off. Are you still able to keep that chilled Richie Hudson vibe, or are you like a swan, all calm on top but legs underneath it, like paddling like crazy?
Oh, dude, I'm like an octopus down there. It is a bit nuts, man. But I've got a few rules in life, and one of them, like my number one, is be like water. So whatever happens, it happens. And then, you know, if it gets too hot, you turn to steam. You turn back to water again. Gets too cold, you know, you hold fast until things are kind of cool again, and then you're back into water. So yeah, absolutely. I'm still probably the most chilled out person I know that works bloody hard, apart from all the guys in Time Bomb, because they work way, way harder than I do.
I love it, mate. Love it. Richie, it's always the best chatting with you.
Oh, I love you, man.
I love you too. Appreciate you coming on the show. Great to see Dead Skull Coffee's going amazing, as everything else is. And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have a beer with you soon, man. That would be awesome. Love you lots, dude. Thank you so much.
Stronger, didn't stop when you got old, and the future didn't suit you in the garden of our souls. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Big thanks and much love to Richie Hudson for chatting with me here on the Straight to Video podcast. I truly hope you all enjoyed that and it wasn't just too much of two mates just waffling on, because I learned a heck of a lot and hope you got inspired a little too by everything that Richie manages to juggle and do out there, because it's all super cool stuff and it's awesome to see how he handles it all. Make sure to grab some Dead Skull coffee at deadskullcoffee.co.uk, or if you just search Time Bomb Croydon, then you'll find all the links to Richie's Time Bomb brand of tattoo and body piercing, custom shirts and a lot more. If you want to check out any early chats of this show, then they're all available at stvpod.com, along with a super fun interview I did with Richie's bandmate and Fiascos drummer Robin Guy, which is well worth diving back to if you've not heard that one. Also, thank you to everyone over on the Straight to Video Patreon page for the continued support. If you're not familiar, then for a small monthly donation starting at just £2, you can get behind the scenes access to the show, a bonus podcast, early heads up on guests, and some cool exclusive merch that is not available anywhere else. A bunch of stuff has been sent out recently and it's great to see everyone's photos. For more info, it can all be found at patreon.com/STVpod, and I appreciate you checking it out. Alright, that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed this one and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Take care.